very receptive ear to doing exactly what they're doing, taking out those boats.
So to be clear, you support the decision to kill survivors after the initial
No, I support the decision to knock out the boats, and whoever's piloting those boats, most of them are gone.
President Trump defending his hardline stance on striking suspected drug boats in the Caribbean amid the controversy over a double-tap strike conducted on a vessel on September 2nd. Some Democratic lawmakers seeming to downplay the threat of narco-terrorism.
There is no such thing as a narco-terrorist, but people on a boat in the middle of the Caribbean carrying cocaine are not a direct threat to the lives of our service members or Americans.
Uniformed military may help save us from this president and his lame people like Hegseth.
This is not who we are. This is not America.
Why are we blowing out of the water and killing people in boats with outboard motors, some of which aren't even pointed towards the United States? It's a catastrophe. I think Pete Hegseth, it's impossible to imagine that he survives this as Secretary of Defense. I think he must resign.
And now former President Barack Obama, who did face criticism over his use of deadly drone strikes, he's now weighing in on the politicization of the military.
I would not expect the politicization of the Justice Department or our military. There's been resistance, particularly in the military, to that, but the degree to which that has been encouraged, that used to be something that I would lecture other countries not to do.
Greg, you could imagine that there are ways to raise some questions about this, but the Democrats always seem to go to where Trump wants them to, which is now they're defending narco-terrorists.
First of all, it's always great to have an Obama clip.
Yes.
It's a nice time just to sit back and take a nap. Maybe 10, 15 minutes, you'll wake up, he'll be finished, and he'll say nothing. You don't have to listen to these people, right? They couldn't define a woman. You expect them to define a terrorist? They always, when they realize they're wrong, they have to unwind the premise. So it's like, first, yeah, these people are bad, and then we find a process to get rid of the bad people, so then they go, well, they really weren't that bad at all. These aren't narco-terrorists. So we'll call them what you want. I mean, you call women a birthing person, you call a felon a carceral individual. What are you going to call a drug dealer? A pharmaceutical entrepreneur? We don't care. We're still going to shoot them. The good news is the time between the appearance of a hoax and its let's say its destruction is shrinking. I call it the hoax gap. Just narrows and narrows. The story, the anonymous sources, the familiar tropes and insinuations, the breathless finger pointing. It used to last months. Now it's like it lasts days because essentially the story was too perfect. It was kind of like the P tape, but we've learned so much. You have a video of 6 Democrats warning you that something bad's going to come your way, and then lo and behold, something bad shows up. It was gift wrapped and with a bow. The card should have been from Jeffrey Epstein. It would have been perfect. So I guess the Dems, to what you're saying is, or you said this during the break, that the Trump can get the Dems to do anything, right? They will do anything to avoid being in the same space with Trump. So if you have a choice between X and Trump, and X is a recidivist criminal, an illegal alien, a transgrifter, they're always going to choose X, the 20 out of the 80-20, and then he ends up looking fine, they end up looking stupid.
Yeah, it's like Maryland man.
Yeah, Maryland dad.
And they go down, and there's that whole thing blew up in their faces too.
Yeah, now it's the shipwreck survivor. That's what they're calling him. So General Jack Keane, who we all respect on this program,
good friend of mine,
said that this is not a war crime. This is standard operating procedure. So you have a target, whether the target's a boat, whether it's a tank, a facility, or a person, or some combination. 25% of the time, there's a reattack. 25% of the time, they double tap. So in this case, what happens, they hit the thing with a missile, and then they examine the aftermath. And the aftermath shows all the kilos of the cocaine are still sitting on board on the top of the water. So what does that mean? You can come grab them and still distribute it into the United States. So they called in a second strike. Kaboom, they sunk it with the contraband. Is the Democrat policy now for every operation, you're only allowed to use one missile. So you can only use one missile, and then you have to stop everything, and you have to send in the Coast Guard and helicopters an hour or 2 hours away and make sure everyone's okay. That's ridiculous, and that would never happen. Because in 15 minutes, they're going to be on a different boat to Miami. The Democrats are such hypocrites because Obama dropped 16,000 bombs in 1 year on one country, Syria. He was double tapping the bejesus out of those people. He hit a wedding. A wedding. No one said anything. Now, why is it okay if you can go after a pickup truck in a desert, but you can't hit a boat in the Caribbean? The real reason is Trump has now designated these people as terrorists. And when you do that, you change the rules of engagement. And they don't like that because they want to do the same thing that we've been doing for decades. They just want to continue to lose the war on drugs. Trump's not going to lose. Trump's actually fighting it. And how's this guy saying that narco-terrorism is not a threat to the United States? Narcotics kills people. What do you think the gangs in Chicago and Los Angeles and Philly are doing? They're shooting each other over narcotics. It drives women into prostitution. It causes burglary. People abuse their wives because of it. People get addicted. It destroys families. It wreaks havoc on the United States. And not only that, the cartels are the ones that are trafficking women and children and human beings across our border. And they've grown so powerful in Latin America, they're choosing the presidents. They're bribing the presidents. And the presidents down there, some of them don't even listen to the United States. They're supposed to be our allies, but the cartels are calling the shots. So how do you think it's going to take to get China and Russia out of the hemisphere when the real power brokers are telling these people what to do down there?
A poll just last week by CBS Kennedy's found a majority, 53%, support the military using force to attack boats suspected of bringing drugs into the United States. So it's interesting. It's not an 80-20 issue like some of these Democratic positions, but there is a clear majority so far.
This one has always disturbed my moral compass for the reasons that we discussed the first time. Jesse actually brought up a really good point when he was arguing against himself accidentally, when he talked about the CIA blowing up a plane full of nuns when we were going through our first round during the war on drugs. And you can bet that these narco-terrorists, because I don't know why Democrats are doing this, and you made this point initially in your question, there's a way of combating narco-terrorism and still disagreeing with Trump. And the fact that Democrats haven't figured that out is kind of shocking because both things can be true at the same time. Narco-terrorism is real. It is all about drugs, and it is all about using violence to have a different political outcome.
That's terrorism.
And that is terrorism. So those two things have been combined, and those two things have been enriching the cartels since we started the war on drugs. The war on drugs has failed. And this, unfortunately, is going to fail as well. It also has the potential to upend the president's administration and his movements because the cartels, mark my words, they're going to start putting two things on those boats. And it's not more fentanyl and cocaine. They're going to start putting children and American citizens on those boats, mark my words. And then, unfortunately, through the fog of war, they are going to be torpedoed, and you're going to have the same situation that Barack Obama found himself in when he was indiscriminately killing Americans with drone strikes. So he can absolutely sit this one out because he does not have...
You get the idea about this American citizens on the boats. Where are they coming from?
The cartels would use them as...
You mean where are they getting them from?
What does Hamas do?
No, I'm just saying.
Embeds themselves.
No, I'm just asking.
But think about all the people who have either gotten asylum, green cards, naturalization, or were born in the U.S., but still have ties to places like Colombia and Venezuela.
They already have reacted, Kennedy. The boats have almost stopped. The cartel boat traffic is down like 90%.
With the appetite for drugs that we have in this country that we do not acknowledge enough.
No, I've acknowledged it. We have to stop sniffing so much blow.
Yes, that's true.
I've said that.
Yes.
You say that every Friday night, and then what happens Saturday?
Oh, my God.
Wrap us up here.
Well, I just think that war is messy. It always has been messy. And I don't think average day Americans are in their homes litigating military law. Right? They don't see it that way. They see all the stories that we've been doing on Fox of kids that have been poisoned to death. I interviewed one mom, and she lost all 3 of her kids to poisoning, okay? They remember the media saying that there was only a few apartment complexes that were being taken over by the Venezuelan gangs, TDA, and they were torturing people in the apartment complexes. They remember in Chicago the story that I did where the guy was held in his basement, tied up to death by TDA, and left to die. And they see a president that's leveling the playing field. One of the things that is hard, and Kennedy may be right on this, but it is a casualty of war. And I think it's a cost-benefit analysis. It's like that time when I was like 23 or 24. I was rolling around here in Fox, Dana, and I had this libertarian approach toward things about what was happening in war. And you said, hey, you went in the room when decisions had to be made. And that's what's happening with this commander-in-chief. Decisions have to be made. Now, the whole story about the Washington Post was a complete hoax. The headline was that Hegseth said, finish them all. And that hasn't been corroborated by anyone yet. They have one source. Now, me personally, I don't disagree with the secretary, even if he said it. Finish them all. And I think most Americans at home feel that way as well.
All right, well, we are well underway here.
Are we? Really?
We are.
Okay,
Up
fine.
next, President.